first thing we went over was the slope of a line if we have 2 points. Alright, and that we said slope m is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Alright, rise over the run, or the change in y over the change in x. After that, then we went over the point slope form of the equation of a line, and that's y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Alright, and we said what do we need to write an equation in point slope form? We need a point and we need the slope. If we multiply out the right side and we move the y sub 1 over, then we can put the equation in slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Alright. Then we went over how to graph vertical or horizontal lines. We said if we have x equals some number a, this will be a vertical line, and if we have y equals some number a, that will be a horizontal line. Alright, then we went over the general form of the equation of a line. And the general form is ax plus by plus c equals 0. From the general form of the equation of a line, we can get the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts really fast. And the way that we do that, for the x-intercepts, you set y equal to 0 and solve for x. And for the y-intercepts, you set x equal to 0 and solve for x. So the only other thing that we went over was the vertical line test. And the vertical line test says that if you draw a vertical line and it touches the graph once, then it is a function. If it touches more than once, it's not a function. And that was a little bit of a review. Alright, which brings us to the next sections. Section 2.4. More on slope. I made sure I checked this morning, and most of these topics are covered in Algebra 1. So if you took the Algebra 1 state test, I know you've at least seen this stuff at one time or another. So even if you didn't take the state test, I'm sure it was taught in some math class that you took. So hopefully this is just a little bit of a review. The first thing we're going to look at is the slopes and equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So think back about what you learned, or what you have learned previously about parallel and perpendicular. Just think about what parallel means to you as far as, and I put 2 R's, there's only 1 R, as far as just in the real world. The first thing that comes to my mind with parallel is parallel parking, or maybe a parallel universe or something like that. Perpendicular, the term is probably not used that much in the real world, but the actual concept is used all the time. Okay? Parallel lines have the same slope. So what that means is, if you're told that one line is parallel to another line, then they're going to have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have the opposite reciprocal slope. Alright. Parallel lines have the same slope because if two lines are parallel, then they're never going to intersect. They're never going to touch each other or cross each other. So their slope is the same. Perpendicular lines, like the x and y axis, are perpendicular. The slope of the x-axis and the slope of the y-axis are opposite reciprocals. Okay, so perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocal. Parallel lines are the same as far as the slope is concerned. Alright, so let's write an equation of the line passing through -3, 4 and parallel to 3x minus y plus 1 equals 0. Alright, so we're given an equation, and the key word here is parallel. So what we want to do, since we know that the given line is parallel, we want to figure out the slope of the new line by looking at the given line. Now, if you have a given line, the easiest way to tell the slope is to put it in slope-intercept form. So this line right now is not in slope-intercept form. For an equation to be in slope-intercept form, we need the y to be by itself. So let's take this y and let's move it over. When you do that, you're going to have y equals 3x plus 1. Alright, now that's not the answer to my problem. That's just the equation that was given in slope-intercept form. Now, I wanted to find the equation of the line in slope-intercept form so that I could figure out the slope of my new line. Now, parallel. Both lines are parallel to each other. So what that means is they have the same slope. So what's the slope of this line? The number in front of x, right? Because this is in slope-intercept now. So the slope of my line that I have here and the slope of my new line are both 3. Now, what are two things that I need to write the equation of a line? The first way that we learned to write the equation of a line was point-slope. So I need a point and I need the slope. I just figured out the slope. I have a point. So label it x sub 1, y sub 1. And let's write the equation of a line in point-slope form. Alright, remember that formula. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So y minus y sub 1 is 4 equals m times x minus x sub 1 is negative 3. Anywhere you have minus a negative, you put plus. And so the equation of my line in point-slope form is y minus 4 equals 3 times x plus 3. So if my problem asked for point-slope form, I would be done. If my problem asked for slope-intercept form, I would not be done. I would need to take this answer and solve for y. So multiply out the right side. So y minus 4 equals 3x plus 9. Add 4 to both sides. So y equals 3x plus 13. And if that's what the problem wanted, if it wanted slope-intercept form, I'd be done. If the problem asked for general form, remember, you take everything and move it to one side and set it equal to 0. So I would just want to take this y and move it over. So if I took this 1y and I moved it to the right side, it would be a negative 1y, right? So that's 3x minus y plus 13 equals 0. So there's point-slope form, slope-intercept form, general form. And the problem may ask for any of those. So I just did all three. Always put it in the form that the problem asked for. Because if the problem asked for the slope-intercept form and one of the choices on the test was the point-slope form, then that would be wrong. You need to make sure you select the slope-intercept form. Well, let's take a look at this problem. Use the given conditions to write an equation for each line in point slope, slope-intercept, and general form. So the line is passing through (5, -9) and perpendicular to the line x plus 7y minus 12 equals 0. Alright, so the key things in this problem. We want to figure out the equation of a line that is perpendicular to this line. That means that its slope is going to have the opposite sign and be the reciprocal. The opposite reciprocal is the type of slope perpendicular lines have. Opposite sign and reciprocal. Alright. So if we can figure out the slope of this given line, then I need to flip the slope, and either if it's negative make it positive, if it's positive make it negative. So to solve for the slope for this line, I need to get the y by itself. Okay? So either move the 7y over or move the other two terms over and leave the 7y on the left side. It doesn't matter, either way you'll get the right answer. I'm just going to move the x and the constant over. That's minus x plus 12 on both sides. And so I have 7y equals negative x plus 12. Now how do I get this 7 by itself? I divide both sides by, get the y by itself. I divide both sides by 7. Now instead of just writing a big fraction bar and a 7 down here, I'm going to actually put the 7 on the bottom of both numbers. I'm going to divide each term by 7 so we can see the slope. What is the slope of this line? The number in front of the x. We usually don't write a 1, but this is a negative 1/7, right? So the slope of the given line in the problem is negative 1/7. So we need to take the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite means it would be a positive slope. The reciprocal of 1/7 is what? 7, right? Just flip it. So positive 7 is the slope of my new line. Opposite, reciprocal. Alright, so now we have a slope of our new line, and we were given a point of our new line. So label your point, x sub 1, y sub 1. Then I can write the equation of this line in point slope form. The way that I do that is I'll say y minus y sub 1, which is negative 9, equals m times x minus x sub 1. Alright, so that's y plus 9 equals 7 times x minus 5. So if the problem asked for just point slope form, I'd be done. That's my answer in point slope form. Okay? If the problem asked for slope-intercept form, Alright, then you take the point slope form and make it y equals. So I'm going to distribute this 7 to everything in the parentheses. I have y plus 9 equals 7x minus 35. Now move the constant over, so y equals 7x minus 44. So notice the slope is 7 still, just like it was here. The y-intercept in this problem is negative 44. Alright, but that's slope-intercept form. Now, what if I was asked for general form? General form, you move everything to one side and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to take this y and move it over to the right side. Then I'll have 7x minus y minus 44 equals 0. Now, if for some reason you have any fractions when you move stuff over, then multiply the entire equation by the least common denominator to get rid of all the fractions. I want you to try this one. The directions are the same. Write the equation in all three forms for a line passing through -7 and perpendicular to the line x minus 2y minus 3 equals 0. So take a few minutes and work that one out and write your answer in all three forms. So if we take the given equation that's in general form and we solve for y, then the slope of the given line is a positive 1/2, which means the slope of a perpendicular line would be -2, because you take the opposite sign and the reciprocal. Now, if I want my answer in point slope form, and that's y minus, well, I didn't label my point, but this is x sub 1 and y sub 1. So y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Now, anywhere you have a minus or negative, you put plus. So y plus 7 equals -2 times x minus 4. This is the equation of the line in point slope form. Alright, if we want slope intercept form, then we multiply out the right side. So I have y plus 7 equals -2x plus 8. And now get the y by itself. So subtract 7 from both sides. So y equals -2x plus 1. Now if I want the equation in general form, then move everything to one side. Now in all the previous problems, I've just been moving the y over to the right side, and that's okay. However, notice how this first term is negative. A lot of times in math, if we can, we try to avoid writing the first term negative. That's just kind of a thing we do as math people. So instead of moving the y over to the right side, I'm going to take these two terms and move them over to the left side. So if you were looking at a problem worked out in the book, or you were looking at a problem and an example on the homework, they probably would do what I'm doing now. They move everything to one side, and since x is our first term, we want to try to make it a positive term. So if I move it over to the left side, it will be a positive 2x. And then I already have a plus 1y here, so plus y. Now move your positive 1 over, it will be a negative 1. And set it equal to 0. If you had it the other way, it's not wrong. It's just that with the first term, we usually try to make it positive. All right.